Hi, everybody. I'm Holly Burkhalter, a Vice President for Government Relations at International Justice Mission. Welcome to my office. I'm glad to have you visiting me here. I'm just going to take a minute to, first of all, wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year and give you a little update about 2012. It's been quite an incredible year. I wanted to tell you some of my favorite moments of the year, but also express my thanks and appreciation to all of you for being part of our Justice Campaign's effort. I've worked on human rights advocacy for a long, long time, and I can just tell you there's nothing better than having thousands of people who care about the issues and who care about the people that IJM serves to just be with us in the fight to try to get our government to take the issue of slavery and trafficking as seriously as we do. So I think we've made quite enormous progress this year, and I want to tell you about it. First of all, one of my favorite moments of the year happened on November 27th. The State Department, uncharacteristically, had a great big party, and it was actually in honor of my boss, Gary Haugen, founder and president of IJM. And when you get a party celebrating your boss, boy, you show up. And it was almost like a family gathering. Everybody in the room, friends from the State Department, friends from other non-governmental groups, came, and Gary was wonderful and joined a panel of other human rights activists and civil rights activists to talk about modern day slavery. And the highlight was they showed a film called Journey to Freedom. Those of you in Cincinnati, Ohio, can go walk right over to the Underground Railway Museum, the Anti-Trafficking Museum there, and see the film because that's where it was made. But it's a wonderful 40-minute documentary done by our good true friend Justin Dillon. And it's a conversation with all of the 2012 trafficking in persons heroes that were named by the State Department tip office, and Gary Haugen is one of them. So he appears in the film, and but even more interesting and important than the interviews with Gary and the other heroes is that Justin, the filmmaker, did this incredible thing where he traced the story of one of the tip heroes that you'll see in the film, who's a Cambodian man, and he was trafficked into slavery, kidnapped, and it was for many years on a fishing boat. And he escaped. He was picked up by police. He was jailed for a long time. I mean, his story is just breathtaking in its cruelty and in his courage. He escaped, and he was eventually reunited with his family many years later. And he has since wanted to tell that story to many other people in Cambodia, like himself, who are vulnerable to the victimization that is modern day slavery. And he has a particular talent as an artist, and he's drawn these magnificent pictures of his experience of being kidnapped and trafficked and exploited and beaten and chased and jailed. He's a very brave man. I got to meet him in person when he was here in June for the Trafficking in Heroes event. But what Justin Dillon did in this film was took our Cambodian heroes' experience, and then he took the story of a free African American 150 years ago or more, who was in New York State, and he was kidnapped and trafficked into slavery and taken to southern states where he was in forced labor, slavery for many years himself. And the stories are different, of course, but they are more similar than they're different. And the reason we know so much about this particular freed slave from New York is that he wrote a book about his experience. And Justin Dillon saw the book and the writings of this very brave, courageous American when he was down at the Freedom Center in Cincinnati doing the filming of the heroes. And so it was his brilliance in putting together the two stories. And you can see this film on the Freedom Commons, ijmfreedomcommons.org, and you'll never spend a better 40 minutes of your life because what you're really going to see is how much slavery hasn't changed, but also the heroism of two great men separated in time by a couple centuries. And it was just a great experience, a sobering one, but a great experience. I want to give you all a quick update of the legislation we've been working on for most of this year and actually for the better part of last year too. And lots of you have been helpful to us. We've delivered, oh wow, 100,000 plus postcards to Capitol Hill that our friends around the country have collected. We are hoping to pass the Trafficking Victims Protection Act this year, and as we come to the end of the lame duck session of Congress here in, well, as I'm speaking, it's December 12th. It's looking pretty good in the Senate, and I'm optimistic that the bill may just pass. In order to do so, it would have to pass unanimously in the Senate under special rules to what they call hotline a piece of legislation. We're hoping that that happens sometime this week or next. And if it does, it doesn't assure us that the bill is complete because we still need House action, and I don't think we're going to get it. But it's still extraordinarily important if the Senate passes this bill, in part because a couple of months ago, policymakers really declared this issue dead in the water. It was done for the year. Nothing was going to happen. And for the Senate to pass it would mean that the senators have listened to a whole lot of you, because a lot of new co-sponsors have jumped on the bill, created a big momentum just in the last couple of months, and that's because they heard from people in their own states. So that means a lot to me, and it should mean a lot to you too, because it means we enter next year with just a broad base of support that we wouldn't have had if this had all gone a lot easier. Does that make any sense? Because I really believe that we are developing this muscle of people engaging with their senators that if it had all been easy, we wouldn't have ever had to develop. And we will start out so much stronger next year. Would I have liked for this to have passed easily and be done and start on something new this year? In 2013, yeah, I would. But I still think that that seeing how far we've gotten on a bill that everybody else had given up for dead is pretty good news at the end of the year. My staff asked me to talk with you about what was my favorite thing about 2012? Well, aside from the sheer joy of just working at IJM, which is pretty great, just all year round, I will have to say that a highlight for me of our advocacy work here in the Government Relations Department with my team on justice campaigns was when Gary Haugen and I got to deliver the letter that we did together with IJM friends as well as Passion, the Christian youth movement. And we had 72,000 names on that letter. And what that actually looks like is a document that Gary and I delivered to the White House that I couldn't carry. It was so big. It was about this. Can you see? It was about 2 feet high, very heavy, because 72,000 Americans who stand up and want to be counted make a big bundle of paper, which when you drop on somebody's desk at the White House gets paid a lot of attention to. And I was just so proud. I was just so proud to be part of the justice movement and part of the modern slavery eradication movement. And I think it was really to the people we were talking to who were the president's advisors, they were impressed. And I think it did get to the president's ears because he mentioned the American people's support for eradicating slavery in his quite extraordinary speech on September 25th, and he also mentioned IJM, which made me happy. But I think most importantly of all is he committed our government to fighting modern-day slavery at home and abroad. And in 2013, we're going to hold him to that, and we're going to work our hardest, as I know you will, to try to push more than move the needle, really push eradication efforts around the world and at home very hard so that we can see big victories, demonstrable victories at home and globally. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye and wish you a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and I look forward to working together next year.